Hi, welcome to Possibility Space. This is Ollie. Today I'm going to read you In Defense of the Omnicause. The Omnicause is a popular term of derision used in right-wing newspapers. Josh Glancy explains, quote, "Modern progressivism often makes the mistake of wrapping everything into a single omnicause. Trans rights are climate rights, are Palestinian rights, are human rights. It's a narrow and reductive way of seeing the world that often detracts from individual causes." Glancy once wrote that, quote, "What looks like apartheid keeps Israel secure. So I doubt he actually cares about Palestinian rights. But I believe him when he says he wants these to stay as individual causes. Divided people are easier to dominate." What the right mockingly label the omnicause, the left simply calls solidarity. Solidarity has achieved amazing things from gay liberation to the defeat of South African apartheid. So, why do the right mock the joined-up thinking of the left? One reason is that many of them sincerely see the world this way. They aren't class-conscious, and they don't think in terms of systems and their outcomes. Because of this, they fail to see that different identity groups frequently share common interests. Let's compare solidarity on the left with the limited transactional allyship of the right. Here is genuine anti-racist organizer Eric Ward. Quote, "What I learned when trying to understand white nationalists and their ideas was that anti-Semitism was the linchpin of the white nationalist belief system. That within this ideological matrix, Jews, despite and indeed because of the fact that they often pass as white, are a different, unassimilable enemy race that must be exposed, defeated, and ultimately eliminated. Anti-Semitism, I discovered, is a particular and potent form of racism so central to white supremacy that black people would not win our freedom without tearing it down." Now here is right-wing activist Michelle Rosenberg expressing her disappointment over the lack of black support for Israel's ongoing genocide in Gaza. Quote, "Jews went to prison for participating in freedom rides. Jews helped establish the NAACP. Jews marched with Black Lives Matter. We will remember the silence from the black community. We won't forget." Ward understands that oppression overlaps. He seeks safety through solidarity. Rosenberg, on the other hand, views allyship as transactional. She's accumulated goodwill and now she's cashing it in. Her argument, echoed by many other pro-Israel campaigners, was memorably mocked by comedian Matt Lieb. "We marched with you against Jim Crow. We marched with you against police brutality. And we marched with you against mass incarceration. All we ask in return is that you let Israel do Jim Crow, police brutality and mass incarceration to Palestinians?" Right-wingers also push the omnicause attack line to divide their opponents. They are not at all shy about this. The Conservative Party here in the UK stir up racial tensions between Hindus and Muslims to win Hindu votes. They also regularly commission polling on trans rights. Their stated aim is to turn working-class people against trans folks in Labour constituencies in order to win votes. To see how right-wing opposition to joined-up thinking works in practice, let's look at Josh Glancy again. He scolded Labour MP Clive Lewis for pointing out a link between the daily inhumanity meted out to Palestinians and rising Islamophobia in the UK. Here's Glancy. Lewis' argument, I think, is that the brutality of Israel's war is cheapening our sense of Muslim life, thus making it easier to imagine burning a migrant hotel or stoning a mosque. Is there any truth to this? It feels like an almighty stretch to me. Glancy is wrong. It's common sense that seeing Israel treat Muslims poorly, to put it fucking mildly, with no consequences, fuels bigotry in our country. But we needn't rely on mere socio-psychological inference. Anti-Palestinian prejudice is directly linked to last summer's race riots. After the inciting attack, misinformation spread quickly. It falsely claimed that the killer was a Palestinian immigrant. The claim reached 2.4 million people on Twitter alone. This was far from the only connection between the rioters and pro-Israel campaigners. These connections didn't stop Glancy. He suggested that Lewis' argument could, quote, easily become anti-Semitic, and then strangely compared him to Jack the Ripper. Glancy wasn't alone in monstering Lewis. The right's thinking might be disjointed, but thanks to social media echo chambers and private group chats, their smear campaigns definitely aren't. Glancy argues that Palestinian rights aren't connected to trans rights. Then he undermined his own argument by taking a swipe at, quote, someone who could have male chromosomes winning a boxing gold medal by punching a bunch of women. He wants to drive us apart, but whenever he opens his mouth, he demonstrates that we share an enemy. The bottom line is that bigotries do overlap and reinforce one another. Recognizing that doesn't detract from individual cases, as Glancy would have you believe. It helps us build coalitions to overcome them, which is exactly what Glancy doesn't want us to do. Here's another example. Right-wingers say that, quote, any parallel between immigrant issues and the Black civil rights movement is weak. But today's laws that attack immigrants grew out of the Fugitive Slave Acts. The right also decry the dangers of mass immigration for women, but immigrants are less likely to commit crimes than natives. And the real emerging threat today appears to be men impersonating ICE agents in order to kidnap and rape women. Migrant rights, it turns out, are civil rights and are women's rights. As well as fostering solidarity, omnicausal thinking also encourages critical thought. It draws out connections and places events in their wider historical context. Let's look at how the podcast Blowback uses an omnicausal lens to contextualize a news story, the US sending a fleet of helicopters to Ukraine. 40 years ago, the US sent billions of dollars of weapons to Islamic warriors fighting the Russians in Afghanistan. Now, it sends Russian-made helicopters that it originally purchased to kill Islamic warriors fighting Americans in Afghanistan to kill Russians in a proxy war in Ukraine. The Cold War is connected to the War on Terror, which is connected to the Russo-Ukrainian War. This is textbook omnicause. And, unlike most reporting on these conflicts, it makes a compelling case for restraint. It does this by including context. By contrast, today's warmongers explicitly warn against the evils of contextualization. Right-wingers will poke fun at you for it, but omnicausal thinking is how we overcome overlapping oppressions. It's how we defeat the politics of division and fear, and it's how we learn from our history. Thank you for listening. I hope you found that interesting. Possibility Space is a listener-supported podcast. You can subscribe for free wherever you get your podcasts, or you can become a paid member on Substack. Thank you for listening. See you next time.